Ever wondered who almost played Dexter Morgan? Before Michael C. Hall made the role iconic, there was a surprising lineup of actors trying to become everyone's favorite serial killer with a code. Some of these names will blow your mind, and one of them even turned the role down for a shocking reason. Stay tuned because you won't believe who almost became TV's favorite and most charming serial killer, and how different the show could have been with a single casting change. Hello everybody, it's Idol on TV. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We know that Michael C. Hall didn't even audition and got the role of Dexter. Showtime offered him the role solely based on seeing his 6 feet under performance. Perhaps this was the best decision Showtime has ever made, but there were other actors who were actually considered to play Dexter Morgan. Some of these names might surprise you, while others won't make any sense at all. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, maybe you should consider subscribing, but if not, that's completely fine too. Now let's dive in. The first actor who apparently got really close to playing Dexter was James Purefoy. While there isn't any official confirmation that he auditioned, he's been mentioned in some fan discussions as someone who might have been in the mix for the role. It's one of those fun what-if casting rumors, especially since Showtime never publicly released the full list of actors they considered for Dexter Morgan back in the day. Purefoy has never officially confirmed it himself, but some fans even claim that he auditioned for Dexter and didn't end up getting the role. But why didn't he get it? It came down to tone and style. James Purefoy is fantastic at playing these smooth, magnetic, dangerously charming guys. Think of his role in The Following, where he nailed that cult leader vibe. But Dexter needed something different, something truly exceptional. The showrunners wanted Dexter to feel like an ordinary, slightly awkward guy hiding a dark secret in plain sight. Someone you'd actually believe is trying to seem normal at his day job. Michael C. Hall had already proven he could do that perfectly in 6 feet under. He brought this quiet vulnerability and unsettling calm that made Dexter both chilling and weirdly sympathetic. So in the end, even though James Purefoy didn't become Dexter Morgan, he eventually got to channel that same dark charisma in The Following. Amazing how one casting decision can define an entire show. That brings us to the second actor who almost became Dexter Morgan, one you've definitely heard of, and that is Hawkeye himself, Jeremy Renner. Showtime actually reached out to Renner immediately when they were casting the lead. He was right at the top of their list. Why? Because just a few years earlier, Renner had played Jeffrey Dahmer in the film Dahmer, and he was seriously good in it, so good that casting directors saw he could bring that same chilling, complex energy to Dexter. They knew he could handle the dark psychological side of a serial killer, but also make him seem like a really believable guy. But here's the thing, Renner turned it down. He said in interviews he didn't want to get typecast playing another serial killer so soon after Dahmer. It was too close for comfort and he didn't want to lock himself into that kind of role early in his career. Interestingly enough, Renner was also considered later for Brian Moser, Dexter's brother, aka the Ice Truck Killer. Showtime still wanted him on the show because they loved the idea of him playing a killer with that kind of unsettling charm. But again, he declined. He just didn't want to do another serial killer role. It's kind of wild to think how different the show could have been if he said yes. Let me know what you think. Could you see Jeremy Renner more as Dexter or as Brian? Or neither? And since we're talking about Brian, the actor who also auditioned for Dexter before he got his iconic role was Christian Camargo. Yes, before he got cast as infamous Brian Moser, Camargo actually auditioned for the role of Dexter Morgan himself. At the time, he was already building a strong reputation as a versatile actor with solid work in theater, film, and TV. He brought a quiet intensity and complexity that matched the layered nature of Dexter. Even though Camargo gave a compelling audition, the showrunners ultimately decided that while he had the right edge, his energy was better suited for a different but equally important role, Brian Moser, Dexter's estranged and chillingly dangerous brother. Brian was a character with a chilling reflection of Dexter's own darkness. Camargo's portrayal brought a haunting vulnerability and unsettling charm to Brian, making him a memorable villain who deeply challenged Dexter's sense of identity and morality in season 1. In many ways, Camargo's role was crucial in setting the tone for the psychological complexity and emotional depth that defined the show's first season. So while Christian Camargo didn't land the lead role, his presence as Brian Moser left a lasting impact, proving that sometimes casting choices can make a show turn out completely different. Just imagine if the roles were reverse, Christian Camargo as Dexter Morgan and Michael C. Hall as Brian Moser. Maybe somewhere in alternate universe that's the show we got. Anyways, it's worth mentioning that Christian Camargo wasn't the only one from Dexter's cast who auditioned for Dexter. Mark Pellegrino also went for the role. Although he brought just the right energy for the character, the producers felt his vibe was actually a better fit for another role, so he got cast as Paul Bennett, aka Rita's troubled husband. You might also recognize him from shows like Lost and Supernatural, where he's known for playing these kinds of morally complicated characters. Even though he didn't get the lead, Pellegrino's role was still a memorable part of the show's story. I will never forget that scene when Paul visits Rita and Dexter and then fake punches Dexter when he doesn't let him in, but Dexter just stands there completely calm and unbothered. It's such a legendary scene. Speaking of legendary scenes, the Home Alone star Macaulay Culkin was one of the names that came up during early casting talks for Dexter. At the time, Showtime was brainstorming different directions for the character, and they considered Culkin because he had that unexpected, boyish, almost innocent look that could make Dexter even more unsettling, and also because of his creepy performance in Party Monster. The idea was that casting someone with such a familiar and harmless face would make the dark side of the character even more shocking. Ultimately, it didn't happen, but it's pretty wild to imagine Kevin McAllister growing up to be Miami's most meticulous serial killer. In fact, fan theory still circulates that he would have made an amazing, quiet psychopath, especially due to his soft-spoken voice and troubled child star mystique. Alright, we're almost at the end. Almost. But before we wrap things up, I've got 3 big names you probably never knew were talked about for the role of Dexter. And yep, they're all Marvel stars, you're gonna want to hear this. The first name is Edward Norton, aka the First Hulk. It's been alleged that Showtime actually approached him about playing Dexter back when they were first considering making it as a film, before it ever became the series we know. Honestly, it kind of makes sense, right? Norton had that intense layered energy that would have been perfect for a character like Dexter. Just think about his roles in American History X and Fight Club. He was incredible at playing these complex, even unhinged characters. He could totally pull off that charming but terrifying serial killer vibe. But there was a catch. At that time, Edward Norton was a pretty big movie star. He was likely seen as too high profile for a long-term cable series commitment in the mid-2000s. Showtime probably realized it would be tough to lock him in for multiple seasons. Which brings us to another Marvel Avengers star, Vision himself, Paul Bettany. Before Dexter was officially set as the US Miami show, and while it was still just an early UK co-production pitch adapted from Jeff Lindsay's novel, Paul Bettany was actually one of the top contenders for the lead role. At that point, Bettany had already impressed audiences with his chilling, cold-blooded performances in films like Gangster No. 1, where his calm, calculated presence really stood out. His talent for portraying cool, intense characters made him a natural choice to bring Dexter Morgan's complex, dark personality to life. Just imagine Paul Bettany doing that Dexter stare and saying, "What is beef if not cow? Persevering." Okay, last but definitely not least, there's David Tennant, another actor who was on Showtime's radar back when Dexter was being pitched as a possible UK co-production, just like Paul Bettany. Tennant later became famous for playing Kilgrave in Jessica Jones, a charming yet terrifying psychopath, proving that he could have nailed the complex mix of charm and darkness that Dexter requires. Kilgrave is the perfect example of a psychopath who uses charisma and manipulation to control those around him, and Tennant pulled that off perfectly. Dexter's world is full of morally grey characters and dangerous minds, and Tennant's ability to balance likability with an unsettling edge would make him a perfect fit. Maybe not as a Dexter himself, but definitely as a chilling antagonist. He's got that rare talent to make viewers both root for and fear his character at the same time, which is essential for the kind of tension and depth a show like Dexter thrives on. So there you have it, a glimpse at some incredible actors who almost became Dexter Morgan, each bringing their own and unique flavor to the role. Makes you wonder how different the show could have been, right? But I still think Michael C. Hall will always be the perfect Dexter. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and maybe even hit that subscribe button. Who knows, I might make some videos on other iconic characters in the future. Thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.
Peace out.